Hi, my name's Andrew Morgan Smith, and I wanted to talk to composers about how do you deal with notes and make them productive, even though maybe it's hard for us to deal with that. So let's jump in. So, you're on a new project, and you just sent your piece to the directors or the producers. It's your magnum opus. And we just expect them to come back and think, oh, this is the most amazing thing you've ever written. This is quite possibly the best thing ever to be made. And now that it is on my project, I cannot help but be just humbled by the experience. We all have that thought in our brains. We just think, it's going to be the best thing ever, right? Then the email dings, right? You check your phone. I don't like it. So it turns out that even though you might be hearing this, the producer or director heard this. Here's the thing. The faster you learn how to deal with something like this, the better off you're going to be. But don't worry. Here are some ways that I've learned to deal with feedback from directors and producers, even when it's not positive, and try and make it into a positive. First thing to know, you can always keep your version 1. So if someone throws it out, you can just put that aside for yourself. And even if there's a version of a track that I like, but it's getting revised, a lot of times I'll earmark that. So whenever I make demo material from that movie, when it's not to picture, I'll just make sure to put that version in the demo that I like. Always keep whatever version you like of something. Yeah, maybe it doesn't end up in the movie, maybe it doesn't end up in the project in that permutation, but you can still have it. And that allowed me to have a little less attachment to revising, a little less resistance to going in there, changing up something you may like. Number 2, don't take it personally. This is very hard for composers. You've put your emotions and your body and soul and your personal experience and all this stuff and your time and your hard work into this. You've programmed it for hours. You've done all these different things, and someone just may not like it. But that doesn't mean it's a bad piece or a bad cue. It just means that it's not right for that moment. It's just not right for their vision. It's not a personal thing. If it was a personal thing, they probably wouldn't have hired you in the first place. It's not personal. It's just getting what they want. It's getting their vision. So keep that in mind as you do this. That segues us, I'm using my hands a lot. That segues us into number 3. It is not your project. It is theirs. It is the director, it's the producers, and you're trying to fulfill their vision, not yours. So I like to also use our music whenever I'm talking about this. When I'm talking with the director or I'm talking with the producer, I'm talking about our score, because it's not just my score. Yeah, I'm writing it, but I'm fulfilling someone else's vision. And it also helps me to be less attached to my score, my ideas, because I'm doing something else. I'm servicing the movie or the story or whatever. I'm not servicing myself. Jeez. And number 4, before I even start, I know that there's always going to be a cue that I like that's going to get butchered. In every project I've ever done, I think, I've never had one where I don't have some cue that I really like that's going to get butchered or cut up or revised or whatever. So just go in before you even start expecting revisions. Expect to have things that you like changed. And if you kind of prepare yourself mentally before all this, then I think you'll be better off. New topic. How to actually deal with the notes. So actually, Pitt's standing, right? Good. I personally like it when directors or producers can watch my music to picture without me there for the first time. The reason for that, besides the soul-crushing social anxiety that I have with that, is that the first reaction is rarely the final reaction that you have for notes. So a lot of times they're sitting there and they're dealing with a lot of baggage for themselves. So maybe they really like the temp score. Maybe they weren't sure how it would play, with just a new emotion, with a new sound, a new thing that's going through their head. So whenever they are actually sitting next to you, there's a certain pressure of, I have to respond. I have to tell this person something right now. I just so often find that the first meeting I have like that tends to be not a waste of time, but a lot of things get changed. I like to send the director music in a way that they can sync to picture, and then they can turn it up and down so I'm not getting notes like, hey, it's a little bit loud. So if I send them the cue, they're able to watch it 3 or 4 times. And I tell them, watch it a couple times, get used to it. If you need to, sleep on it. So that way you can get used to the music. I've had directors literally tell me that they absolutely hated something the first time that they listened to it. The second time they listened, they were a little more okay with it. Third time, they're starting to like it. Fourth time, they really like it. So, and then they're giving you notes on the fourth time, not the first time. Or they're not calling you on the way back to their to their office or their house saying, all that stuff I said, forget it.
Forget about it.
Side note, examples of dealing with notes. If you get an email and you're upset about it, do not respond yet. Calm down. Give yourself a second. Glad no one's in my office when I get notes sometimes. Just cool down. Take a walk if you have to. Then start dealing with the notes. Actually get into them, dig into them, break them down. First thing, a director-editor friend of mine named Misty Talley. She's great. You should check her out. She was the first one I heard do this. I've seen a couple other people do this, but she always starts out with, thanks for these notes, or thank you. Thanking whoever's giving you the notes for sending you the notes, because it's always great to start out in a positive way. And I don't mean that in a sarcastic way. I mean, honestly, someone took the time out of their day to try and give you feedback, to communicate with you, to try and do all these things. So genuinely warrants some kind of positivity, right? I think. They're trying to tell you what they want. Second thing is that sometimes notes that seem really overwhelming, so you page down and you have paragraph after paragraph after paragraph after paragraph of notes, actually aren't that bad. So if you dig into this paragraph, you may read there's 3 sentences of just kind of explanation, and then there's 1 sentence in there that actually is the note of I actually don't feel like there's enough whatever here. So sometimes things are more straightforward than you realize. So that's why take time to cool off before you dig into these notes, because sometimes they're not that bad. Third thing, if the note is convoluted or confusing, or you have a problem with it, reach out to the director or producer, whoever wrote you the note, and it's very helpful whenever I do it to be able to tell them what I think it means. Being able to say, so on 2M13, when you say it wasn't quite right, were you talking about this, or are you more talking about this sound here? And if you're honestly trying to create a dialogue with them, sometimes they'll even open up more about the note as you're talking to them. They may be rethinking what their note was. They may be thinking, oh, well, maybe I could say it this way. They may have a new angle of what they're going to say. And sometimes that's just what you need to get clarification out of that note. As you're talking to the director or producer, make sure that you're being friendly and positive, and just understand that they're also trying to communicate what they want. And it's very frustrating for them to communicate what they want sometimes, because maybe they're not a musician. Maybe they have 0 musical training. And this is maybe the first time they've ever done this. So try to keep in mind that they're trying to get the best thing out of you, and you're trying to do the best thing for them. So stay positive overall on it, right? Number 4, just try to give them what they want to the best of your ability and to the best of your understanding. This seems like a silly note probably, but as you're working on these things, it's really easy to get jaded about stuff. So just keep your head where it needs to be, that you're serving the project and that you're trying to get these directors and producers what they need. Number 5, always listen to the director, right? This is... Don't drink Coke, ladies and gentlemen, whenever you're... Number 5, listen to the director or producer or editor, whoever is giving you the note. And what I mean by listen is hear whatever they have to say. Sometimes directors like to talk a lot. That's fine. I sometimes joke that I feel like a therapist to directors.
I have problems.
And what I mean is sometimes directors just will talk about the drama on set, or man, it was horrible rain that day when we shot this sequence, because this is the stuff they're thinking about. It's great. The reason why it's great is you're sitting there getting to know them on an emotional level, on an experiential level, and they're opening up to you and talking to you about it. And yeah, maybe they talk every time they call you, they talk for an hour. But that's an hour of relationship building that you had on the phone or in person, wherever you are, with this person, right? And sometimes directors, producers, whoever it is, just need someone to talk to and connecting with them emotionally. And as you're working through it, you may find out, oh man, they really like some kind of music or some style of music that I could actually incorporate, or they really may think this is sadder than initially they were talking about. And as they're working through some idea, making movies is hard, and having someone to talk to helps you and helps them. So don't look at it as a waste of time, because it's not. The last thing about this idea is that you're helping someone else out. You're in the trenches with them, you're forging a relationship with them, and they'll remember that. So that's really important. You're not just making an investment into a business investment. You're also investing into a colleague, and you're investing into a friendship. Hopefully you like the people you work with. Maybe you don't, but we can't have everything, I guess. Number 6, my final point, sometimes things aren't going to work out, and that's okay. Sometimes people don't want to work with you. I've literally had someone write me back after I wrote an entire short film score and just said, this whole thing is uninspired. And I said, do you want to do notes? I'll try and get what you need. They said, nope, I'm going to just start over. Nothing you did works. I'm just not even going to do it. And that's an extreme example. But if someone's just not going to work with you, or if things just aren't working out, try to just have a controlled crash. In the sense that try to gracefully end whatever is happening. Try to finish out whatever they can. Try to give them, to the best of your ability, whatever you can give them, because you never know what somebody on that movie is going to be doing, right? You never know. Maybe the editor on that movie really liked your music, thought the producers were insane. Hey, I have another project I'm editing that I think you'd be great for. Or the producers were great and they loved your music, but the director was insane, asking for too much and couldn't get what he needed and couldn't do what he needed to do. And the producer loved your stuff and can bring you onto something else. And bad news and bad vibes can spread pretty quickly through the film industry, right? If someone doesn't like you, then it can do a lot of damage to you, especially just starting out. So I hope you've watched it this far, and I hope you liked it. Hopefully something interesting came of it. So I hope you come back.